Welcome. We are so glad you're here with us today at Evercast Weekly, your one-stop shop for all things Evermore. We are not an officially affiliated podcast of Evermore Park, but we are glad you're here with us today as we geek out about all of our favorite things. Today we will be talking about
what Evermore means to us. Yes.
And this week's spotlight is Joey Monroe. Joey has been attending for about a year. He's the first ranked 7 out of any guild in the entire park. And he's a high-ranking ranger and pirate and just happens to be on my crew, which is a pretty big deal.
Today, we will have several other council members from Everguard joining us as we discuss our favorite things about Evermore.
My name is Rachel Ann Robertson. I play Lady Caroline Ravenwood in Park. Right now she's in Aurora, however, so I've been playing as the Adventuress, hearkening to my moniker Evermore Adventuress. So this episode we wanted to talk about why we're grateful for Evermore and what we get out of Evermore and what it means to us. Which is kind of a mean question because I don't think any of us can answer that in under an hour sufficiently to our desire. But we'll each talk about a few things of why it's so dear to our hearts. For me, first off, the physical environment of feeling like I'm walking onto a movie set or into a film or into an entirely new world, depending how fully I immerse my creativity and imagination that day, is honestly one of my favorite parts. It never gets old to me walking into the tavern, walking across these bridges and past these characters with glorious costume and makeup details. Yeah, so for me, just that physical environment to play with. I was just thinking about when I was a kid, we had this big backyard and neighbors who did not care how loud I was in the backyard. So I could sing to my heart's content. I could play make-believe and shout with my friends and wave sticks around and cast magic spells and ride broomsticks. And a lot of that goes away sometimes when you go off to college or different apartments and you don't have that space to play anymore. You know, you have to be more quiet, more reserved, in some cases maybe more responsible. Evermore, it's just that place again, that big backyard, but with really cool props and really cool friends to play with, whether that be the actors or the other world walkers themselves. Leading into my other favorite part, which is the friendships that I think so many of us have made, just that human connection, again, both playing with the characters and meeting, honestly, some of the best friends I've had in years and years through this immersive park is absolutely the thing that I am grateful for, being able to meet the creatives behind it and also just being able to play with those I meet. So yeah, I guess to me, Evermore just means getting to go back to the big backyard and being able to embrace my imagination and my creative side to the fullest again.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned a lot of visual elements. Is there a specific costume and set piece at Evermore that is your favorite?
Probably my favorite set piece, if you would call him that, was the Fae King.
Yeah.
Both me and my children were just completely mesmerized. I just remember thinking, wow, that's a really cool prop, and not paying too much attention at first until I was realizing that it was actually speaking to everyone. And then I said, okay, hold the phone. This is cool. And then costumes. Oh, I have so many favorites. Obviously, the overall look, I will always say Frost Lords.
Yeah.
That I would say is even more about the makeup and wigs on them for me, though. So as far as my favorite costume, I love like 1880s Victorian. So it's actually some of just the townspeople in their bustle dresses. Beautiful.
They do a great job.
One of the most intimidating figures, though, is when Ulfdrot finally shows up.
Yes.
Like
that was an amazing costume.
Yeah. And then the actor is just amazing. So, you know, the whole presence thing, he shows up, the drums are beating. Yeah, it was fantastic.
It's so true. The leatherwork details in so many of the costumes, dragon trainers and wolves of winter and everything, just so great.
Yeah. Robin, do you want to go next?
Actually, the first time I went to Evermore, I did not even talk to any characters straight up because I felt so uncomfortable becoming immersed in this new experience. And it was so unlike anything I had felt. And so I was very, very inhibited the first time or two. But then I felt liberated to go and talk to people. Once I put on a costume, I was somebody else. I wasn't my normal self. And for some reason, that was just a little mental kick my brain needed to let me loosen up and have a good time. And I had a lot of social anxiety. It might be obvious some nights, and some nights it might not be. But I could not even talk to people when I first started going to Evermore. In general, in my real life, I could not handle conversations, and small talk was terrifying to me. And so going and being a different person and having like structured conversations, because there are these quests, you need certain information, you have, kind of these guidelines of what you want to talk about. That really helped me get more comfortable talking to people in general. And that's kind of leaked over into my real life, that I'm much more comfortable in real life talking with people. And so, 2 years ago, I would have never seen myself doing this video podcast, for example. I would be in tears at that thought. But it's been really helpful for me to just embrace those social connections more and allow myself to be more vulnerable with other people and seek that connection. And it's also helped me be more fun in my real life, because my character in Park is more fun than my normal serious real life person. And it's been really great to have that carry over. Like my family members and friends see, like, I laugh a lot easier and I'm more fun loving and playful and just more cheerful in general. And so for me, I love how it slowly changed me to become more of the type of person I wish I was, because I pretended to be that sort of person in Park. And it's become more natural in just all of my life to be more that way. So I love that.
That's awesome.
One thing that's about me is I love going to live performances. I love plays, operas, ballets, you name it. And Evermore is just a fabulous performance that is so beautiful, because often when I would go to a play, I would wish I could be on stage with the performers. And I wish I could be up close and see their beautiful costumes. I have as much fun watching the technical parts of a production as I do the performance parts. And so with Evermore, getting to see those details up close and getting to interact with the characters in person just brings this new thrill to the performance that it's just not something I find anywhere else. And I love being able to be a part of that story.
I think mine is very similar to Robin's. So just a little background into the younger Pit Plum. In high school, a lifetime ago, I was very introverted. A lot of social anxiety, a lot of fear about how I would be perceived, depending on what I said. And I was actually voted shyest senior in my high school, which is completely different than.
I would never imagine that.
Yeah.
Why would they make him a category?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's weird. Right after high school, when I was 18, I went to Disneyland, and the float was going by with Snow White, and I yelled out, "I love you, Snow White!" And I don't know what came over me, but in retrospect, it was the lack of like social consequence. So I didn't know the people next to me. I would never see them again. I didn't know Snow White. I would never see her again. And just being able to have that social confidence in this escapism type environment kind of helped that. Fast forward to Evermore. The first night I went, soft opening, Lore 2018, or the FanX party, I guess. I didn't really know what to expect. I was excited for it was described as like a D&D in person type of experience, and I had just gotten into D&D. So I show up, and the first two characters I met were Bryony and Imelda, two fairies. And the first thing they asked me was, what my name was. And that's the first thing that really shocked me. The fact that they would kind of involve me in and want to know my name as if it mattered. If this was a play, they would never ask that. So that's the first thing that hit me. And I had to come up on the spot with Pit Plum. Well, it wasn't on the spot. It was my D&D character, completely different character, but it's what I had. So I used it. And then the next week, I decided to come again. And the second big shocker was that they remembered my name as well as a few other characters remembered my name.
Yes.
And it amazed me that this level of immersion could lead to that.
Yes.
And so that social anxiety that I was talking about before, that you talked about, Robin, this escapism, this lack of like judgment would let me put on a face, put on a role of what I thought I wanted to be, kind of confidence in my character. Another story, I invited a friend one of the first few weeks that Evermore was open. And his critique of Evermore was that it was equivalent to the dopamine hit that you get from social media. You know, you get likes on Facebook and it makes you feel good. Same thing, characters learn your name and they say hi to you and makes you feel good, but it's not real, was his claim. But I can attest after 2 years of going to Evermore that that's not the case. In reality, you start to play this role of what you think your best self is, and the world walkers and characters around you start to they're drawn to that. And the relationships you build are real. And I've had actors tell me that how even though their character's fake and that's not how they really act in real life, there's still a real bond that can form, and that's really cool. And just like you, Robin, it's helped build my confidence in social experiences outside of Evermore Park. So that's me.
And I've found that these friendships we make with other guests and other regulars, these are really beautiful relationships. Like, I love seeing my World Walker friends when we're lining up to go inside. I'm as excited to see my friends as I am to go into the park and play. And so I love these relationships that we're just building. It's kind of like a book club, but way better, because book clubs, I love to read. There's that disclaimer. I love to read and I love book club and I've hosted it. But this is way better because we're like living the story instead of just talking about the story,
Right.
But I agree with you, Kit, about actresses and actors remembering your name, and what a big deal that was. My first time I came in character, I had a similar experience as you, where they said, "What's your name?" And Robin Swift was my role-playing game name, and just went with that. But then it was like 3 weeks before I came back, and Oren the pirate remembered my name. And that was just so cool. It was like, I belong here, and what I did mattered when I was here, and I want to be part of more of it. So,
and just like the experience with Snow White I had when I was 18, learning the name might be just that dopamine hit. But what comes after that, talking about real world things, real world problems, like learning about how people tick on a fundamental level, that's all real. Not to mention interactions you have with other world walkers, which is 100% real. That's not true. I mean, a lot of people are acting still, but still, it's more real than the characters.
And if I might interject something, you were talking about these relationships and how these skills carry over. We've talked in previous episodes how much I was invested in Titus's story arc and his redemption and helping him forgive himself for some of the choices his character has done, right? And something that I thought that I realized after the season ended was that these conversations I was having with Titus, where I cared so much about him and wanted him to see his value, that completely carried over to my relationship with my teenage son, who has very different priorities and values than I do. And coming home and being like, this is my real person to invest this energy and this pep talk into. It was really great to take some of these points I made with Titus in character that finally resonated with him, to help him accept and love himself and bring that home. And my relationship with my son is in a beautiful place now, and we have a wonderful time together. And Pitt, you were there one of those nights when I was crying outside the park, like, oh, this is such a difficult thing with my relationship. And now we're really good friends. And a small part of that was getting to practice these sort of encouraging talks with Titus.
Yeah, everyone's teaching us how to be good people.
Well, some of us. I guess some people play villains, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I think right now I'm ranked 3 in the Coven, so a caster, studying animancy under Calder. Interact in interesting ways with what Pitt and Robin have said. The big draw for me with Evermore was that when it opened, I was in a really bad place. I'd just lost a friend that I thought was going to be part of my life for a while. She hadn't died or anything. We just, the friendship ended in a really bad way. I was dealing with a lot of trauma, and I was at this point, I didn't think I was lovable, and I ended up, what I wanted more than anything was to go somewhere I could reinvent who I was. You go somewhere no one knew who I was, where I could just start with a blank slate. So that's what drew Evermore for me. That's why I was so excited to go. And then I went, and you know, Pitt mentioned a dopamine hit, and that hit me like a freight train. It was the first time in years I genuinely felt happy. And it was the first time I started to give myself permission to be happy in a long time. And so for me, Evermore has been about, to a large degree, becoming who I want to be instead of becoming who I was. It's been incredible. And, you know, we talk about, you know, Evermore helps you become a better person and things like that. And it does that to a large degree. It helps me express myself more. The last year, I've been dealing with a lot of family troubles. And so lore this season, when I actually ended up having a fight with Driner and with Francis, like in character, it was stressful. And then I left, and out of character, it was such a relief, because I was finally able to express some of my frustration in a way that didn't really hurt anyone else.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What was this fight about, if I might ask?
To a large degree, it was over the theft of Restgiver, and particularly the fact that they dressed as acolytes to steal from the coven. With Driner, it was also the culmination of me wondering, okay, is he going to turn this town over to the matriarchs or not? And he's been waffling about it for months. And so at that point, I was just like, I'm done. You robbed us. Your loyalty is a question. I can't do this. I felt bad, but out of character, we're great. Yeah.
Viewers, make sure to disagree in character respectfully.
I can't say it was respectfully.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was not respectfully. No.
I mean, you know, use your senses to gauge, like, you know,
right.
Is the actor, are we playing together, or is this getting bad?
Right.
But that's interesting, though. It's like a social training ground, social playground, where
Oh, for sure.
you're learning how to stand up for yourself and to be assertive
Mm-hmm.
in a safe place.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you, Miranda.
Anybody want to go next?
I think you're up, Sly.
Okay, let's see. Oof. So lore, way back when, I remember a friend of mine, we were just having, I think it was Thanksgiving dinner. Anyways, I had just moved down from Alaska and was reconnecting with lifelong friends when one of them was like, have you heard of Evermore? Because I may or may not have been talking about my nerdy, geeky things that I do. They said, yeah, Evermore is a thing. It's over in Pleasant Grove. You should totally check it out. Well, I don't remember my first day. I just remember enjoying it so much that I wanted to go back again. The next couple of times that I went, I found myself spending more and more time with the Rangers, and I totally loved hiding. It got to the point where when my character had received a name and everything it was actually Nightshade. So going through initiations and everything, the Rangers get a code name. And so I don't even remember, it took me the longest time to remember what Sly's actual name was, because I haven't used it in forever. And so when Nightshade was like, what about Sly? I was like, I like it. Nice. So ever since then, I started wearing anything to cover my face. And for the first year, my face was covered. And it was hilarious when I actually got to meet one of the actors outside of Park. And he's like, wait, who are you? Like, I recognize the voice, but who are you? And it was funny because the other actors ratted me out. And so I was like, you stupid. But it was a lot of fun because I got a chance to hide. I got a chance to do all the fun things that rogues get to do in D&D, and it was fantastic. And then Mythos came and went, and unfortunately, it was way too hot, and I could not get there. And then when lore came back around, I ran into a character that I had spent a lot of time with. Well, she was a different character at that point. And she was like, oh, we haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? And it just blew me away because it was like months, since I had been in park. And she made me feel like it'd only been a couple days. And I remember that feeling like, wow, people remember me. It was a lot of fun to think that way. And I remember around that same time, another ranger and I had started competing with one another for the top rank in the Rangers. So it was a lot of fun to have someone, neck and neck fighting for that top spot. And as we ranked up, a lot of times we did it together. So it became like a goal-oriented kind of thing. It was really fun. I was like, I have to complete this. I have to. As I was doing that, though, the tasks that we were given had us go and meet different guild, learn things about Evermore itself, and I got a chance to learn how to talk to people and to actually know that they're going to be around for a while, which is, well-ish. So that's another story. But it was a lot of fun to be in the shadows and pop out whenever I wanted to. And then eventually it just got so hot that even when we were supposed to be wearing masks, I hardly wore my mask. And so show my face, and then it was fun to be loud. I got to do appropriate things, but the appropriate things that I wanted to do. It was fun as relationships changed in part. So for example, Driner went from being the newest member of the Rangers to being in charge of the guild. And so that relationship kind of got turned upside down because he went from, go do your thing, to all of a sudden now I'm in charge. I got to make sure that people are safe and all this fun stuff. And it was really interesting to feel that as it changed. And yeah, we don't talk as much anymore because people that are in charge, Fooey. But that's beside the point. Evermore has become a place where I've gotten to meet people I would never have met. I was about an hour away. No, not that far away. A half hour away. And members of the Rangers Guild come as far as like an hour or 2 hours away, I think it was. And then meeting Kazan, he's like 2 hours away from where I used to live. And there's no way I would have met them. No way. And yet we all show up at the same place, show up to have fun. We get a chance to interact, like someone said, outside of the gates. And it's almost as much fun just to sit there for like half hour, 45 minutes chatting with people as you're waiting in line. Yeah. And then you get to go in and play. And then it becomes even more fun as you either work with or against some of your friends to get things done. It's been 2 very short and long years all at once, and it's been fantastic.
I love that. Thank you, Slide.
Audrey?
Ready, Audrey?
Sure. Okay, so how I came across Evermore is actually really weird. Like, I was not looking for it. I had no idea what it was. It was just one of my friends from work was like, oh yeah, there's this really cool thing going on. We should go. And we went in a group of 6. So that was a little bit of a struggle because there were so many people to try and keep track of. So that was during First Lore. It wasn't really until middle of First Aurora to Mythos when I actually kind of started really getting into the story. I actually do have a story that I can tell. Sorry guys, I'm bringing up dragons. I always wanted to have a dragon puppet. I, of course, just didn't know how to do it. I was like, I was talking to Aiden at one point, and I kind of made the comment of like, yeah, I want a dragon. He's like, why don't you get one? And I was like, because I can't. And he was like, well, why not? What's stopping you? And I was like, that is surprisingly deep. So funny, from there, I went and it took me a week. I made my own dragon puppet, and I was going to bring it to Evermore that Saturday. Now, what happened was I actually had work before that night. I have a leadership position at work, and so sometimes I have to discipline people. It was one of those days when I had to do that, and it was really unfortunate. It was really hard for me because at least I try to be a kind person, so having to discipline someone, really breaks my heart. And so I was having a really rough time. Driving home, I was shaking, like almost on the verge of tears, and Evermore was the last thing I wanted to do. But I had spent all week working on this dragon puppet. And it was like, well, I worked all week on this. I'd have to wait a whole nother week before I could do it again. So gonna go through with it. So I ended up, even though I was in this horrible place, I still showed up to Evermore with my dragon puppet. That was probably one of the greatest nights I've had in 2 years. First, we showed my dragon puppet to, her name's Amira, by the way, showed her to Aina, one of the dragon trainers, and she, of course, was just like overjoyed and had so much fun with it. And then, we showed Kata, and Kata was holding Aelin, her dragon. It was really cute to have our two dragons interact with each other, and they booped noses. It was so great, but unfortunately, we weren't able to catch Aiden alone for a while until later in the night. But what happened that night is, Aiden and his two daughters, the dragon trainers as a whole, they were fighting amongst each other because they had an egg that, wasn't going to hatch. It was dormant. Deja vu with Pyra. So they had this huge fight, and it wasn't until they were all like going and looking for their own things to help bring the egg back that we were able to show Aiden my dragon. His reaction was the greatest thing. He was so happy. He was just completely overjoyed. He was cooing over her. And it was really cute. And it's interesting because from that moment, it wasn't really until that moment that I had like a huge impact from Evermore. Like I'd kind of like interacted with people, but they didn't really like remember me because I like to hide in the background, didn't really remember me until that point. Like Aiden remembered, like, oh, you got a baby dragon. I was like, yeah. So just him actually showing such an interest in something, that I had, that was kind of the moment that I was like, I'm making friends here. Like I mean something here. I've made a lot of friendships, including Aiden and including his actor, including, so many people at the park, world walkers and actors and characters, because you have different relationships with each one. Mm-hmm. And it's really been a place for me to have a lot of friends because I am bad at making friends. Well, I guess I'm bad at interacting with people. And so, in this place, you are forced to interact with people. Otherwise, you just walk around looking at the garden and wondering why you're there. But for me, it really was a place that I was able to get so many new friends. And I had my work friends. But you know how sometimes that is, there's always disputes over things at work and politics going on and everything. And so Evermore was kind of one of the first places that I had a lot of friends because I went to a private school in a different city. So Evermore was really the place where I got all of my friends. It probably makes up over half of my friend group now. So
I think there's a common thread here.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you made that dragon in a week.
Actually, less than a week.
Wow.
I remember seeing you with that, and I think I didn't talk to you the first time I saw it, but I might have said like, oh, hey, that's cool. But in my mind, like, I really want to take a picture of a cool dragon. And I'm like, oh.
For a long while, I was known as the girl with a dragon on her hand. That was how I was known for a long while.
That's how I met you.
Yeah.
What you said was interesting about being noticed by the characters is kind of what kicked things off. A lot of people come to Evermore in street clothes instead of fantasy characters, and I think it's harder to have that really special experience when you're hard to remember from the actor's point of view.
One thing else that was really special was with the ritual, with trying to wake up this dragon egg, it failed. So the dragon trainers were really downhearted, but they kind of reconciled with each other. They were, acting like a family. And them, seeing Amira, because they knew that through the portal was kind of the future kind of a thing. So they knew that I was from the future. And so them seeing this baby dragon, they were like, oh, there's hope for dragons on the earth. Aww, and so cute. That also had like a huge effect. I was like, I'm giving these people hope and they're just characters, but I've given them hope. I mean something here. So
absolutely. I think as far as the question of like what keeps you coming back, there has been weeks that I've been, like had my calendar when I was going and then had to cheat and go a week that I was trying to budget not to go because so-and-so needed my help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Can we move on to Jim?
Can I introduce him? Guys, this is the maker of amazing things. They glow. They're like feathery. There's the staves, the wands, like all things creatively awesome. A great guy to boot. So you got Jim.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, thank you for that slide. Wow, how do I follow up that? Holy cow. My story with Evermore is probably a bit different than everybody else's here in this group. For those who don't know, I come from Wyoming, and so every time I show up, it is a 1,200-mile round trip. From my house to Evermore and back is 1,200 miles. It is, if I don't stop, and I never don't stop, it takes 8.5 hours one way. Normally that equates to about a 9.5 hour to 10-hour drive because I'll stop and get food and stuff like that. So yeah, it's and a lot of times in order to make it to the park in time, something like that, because of my work schedule, I will leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I will drive all night. I'll get to Utah. I'll do some stuff. I'll set up, and then I'm working at the park. And so I'll literally go 24 hours from the time I start driving. I get to Utah. I set up. I go to the park, and then I finally get to sleep. It's 24 hours. Just
wow.
Yes. How my story started is actually probably really similar to a lot of you. How I ended up, though, is really quite a bit different. So I started with my wife sending me a Facebook message of saying, hey, there's this cool geek park in Utah. This looks right up your alley. You and Michael, my buddy, you guys ought to go. And it was the very first, it was when Evermore opened. It was lore, that very first lore season, the whole bit. We're like, cool. This is right around Halloween time. We're going to drive down. We're going to hit like a Zerkers or a Spirit Halloween costume place, and we're just going to grab something and go and throw it on. And it was November 2nd. I know because the park closed the 31st. So we showed up and the park was closed. Because I'm from Florida, the land of theme parks. Who closes a theme park? They're open all year long. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with these people? So we drove 8.5 hours to attend a closed theme park. But it was a fantastic trip. We had a blast, and we decided we're going to come back when they open. And we were there. We were there for the first day for Aurora, and we decided we're gonna dress to the nines. So my buddy, he stayed with his outfit that he bought from Zerkers. It was this kind of neat looking steampunk outfit. And me, my mother's a seamstress. I danced and was in theater for many, many years. And so I had a bit of that background. So I thought, I'm going to come in my own thing. And so that's how Jim was born. It was me just putting together this outfit with crystals and with lights and different things that I had kind of cobbled together into this steampunk cowboy thing. And we were Jim and Max, bounty hunters for hire. And we joined the Oathbreakers, and just right off the bat, we had a lot of fun, and it was a weekend to remember. It was definitely a geek guys weekend. And I knew when I walked in the park, it was really, really interesting. I remember distinctly having a conversation with him, and this was back when the park was really raw. They still had no paved sidewalks. It was all packed dirt, the whole bit. And we were looking around, and I could see the potential. And my buddy said to me, wouldn't it be awesome if we could make a living and work here? Like if we could do this full time. And we both have big families. I got 6 kids. He's got 4 kids and some adopted kids and foster kids. So we both have very large families. There's no way they could afford to pay us what we need to make in order to make a living. But wouldn't it be cool? And here we are 2 years later. I'm 3 weeks into having left my day job. I don't work for Evermore, but I work with Evermore, and the things that I do get paid because of Evermore. My living, very much so, is a part of Evermore existing. and the things that I do are absolutely 100% related to it. So it's interesting. I have a perspective in that I was never a deep immersion kind of a guy. Like I joined the Bards and I joined the Pirates and I, did little minor ranking things, but really, my whole experience was coming to the park and talking to Caroline and talking to Pitt and talking to Sly and how are you doing? How are things? What's going on in your life? Going to Denny's after the park. The actors and the stories and all those things were fun. But for me, it was just getting to really know some cool people and having a fun time and having a good time and really exploring a kind of creative side of me. Ultimately, every time I would come back, I would have more and more jewelry or different things and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Jim,
I'm going to do my very best not to be a little baby right now. The intro that Sly gave me, I have heard words like that on more than one occasion, and I am in total awe and humbled by it all. I could not have imagined 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, that I would be making enough to leave my day job. Not just leave my day job, to completely make more than what I was making and support my family doing this. And now I'm at the point where I'm a month into leaving my job and I'm having to hire staff because I can't keep up. And I'm doing something that I utterly and truly love. I get to be a part of the magic. A really, really surreal moment was this. It was about 2 months ago. So it was a couple of weeks into it was just as Lore was getting ready to start. I was setting up I needed to come to the park. It was a Saturday afternoon. It was or Saturday morning. It was like 9 a.m. And I showed up and I knocked on the gate and the security guy, and he says, "Oh, you're Jim." Yeah. How long do you need to be here? I said, "Oh, I plan to be here all day." He says, "Okay, make sure no one comes in." And he left me in the park alone. And I'm walking through, to me, it's like walking through Disneyland and you're the only one in Disneyland and they trust you enough that it's cool. You're fine. You're Jim. We know Jim. We know Jim's not going to screw anything up. He's not going to burn the place down. That was a surreal moment. That was wow. That was wow. So it is not an exaggeration to say that Evermore, the people I've met at Evermore, they have had a life-changing effect on my life in every facet. It's very humbling, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
wow.
Jim, I am just so glad to see you thriving and seeing all the new products you're putting out. I just want to keep on throwing money at you and just keep on throwing money and throw more money and throw more money. Just to make sure because the products you do are amazing. I am looking forward to what you do with my sword. I'm looking forward to seeing my wife's bandolier. Anybody that has any questions about the quality of your product, if you won't guarantee it, you won't sell it. I'll say that right now, because I've had those little lighted bottle that's broken three times, and you're like, just swapped it out for me. And the wings, the cloak that we were going to buy for my wife, and you found out it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to be durable. You won't sell it. So your ethics and your customer service is way above anything I could ever expect. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
For those of you who never gotten a chance to actually talk to Jim, go and ask him about how the things are, how the materials are gathered. Just go talk to him, and then you'll see. Then you'll just want to buy everything there. Be warned. Mm-hmm. Come with money.
And if I could add something to what Jim was saying, you mentioned you have the chance to kind of fulfill what you wanted to do by working selling things at the park. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating to me that the park it facilitates that sort of thing. It facilitates growth in a way you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, very much so. What was really goofy, I don't know if goofy is the right word, but the first night that my buddy and I went, I don't know if I forget who it was, but somebody pointed out, we were in the tavern and somebody pointed out, that's Ken Berkshire. He's the founder of the park. He created it. And I walked over, there was a few people around him. He looked at me and I said, I just want to thank you for the park. Thank you for the time and effort. And he's probably spent 15 minutes talking to me, some stranger from wherever. And it was really cool. And I couldn't make it back for like another 6 months. He happened to be there again. He grabbed me and he says, you're that guy from Wyoming. Thank you for coming back. He remembered me. And that was cool. After that, I was able to go back a few more times relatively soon. And I had gotten to one point where I went with my buddy again. It was a year later, and we're running through the park. And this time I was actually doing some quests and things like that. And I was with a group of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 people, whatever. And Ken actually, he was in another conversation with another group of people. He stopped. He turned around. He told them, I'll be right back. And he came over to me and he gives me this big bear hug. Oh. And he's like, how are you doing? I said, oh, I'm doing wonderful, great. And I said, I'd love to talk to you, but we're on a quest. And he's like, oh, go do your quest. And so we get going down the quest. And the group was like, who was that? And I was like, oh, that's Ken. Oh, who's Ken? He's the owner of the park. And my buddy calls out from behind me, hey, Jim, you're kind of a big deal. Shut up. I was like, oh, God, no. It was really, really humbling that he and his wife, she always makes it a point to come over and say hi when she's at the park. And it's just, again, it's a very surreal moment. Having grown up in the land of theme parks, it'd be like Disney coming up and saying, hey, I know you, come on up, give me a big hug, come here, bring it in. Oh my God, okay.
I think that kind of personality and that attention to other people really trickles down and makes Evermore a place. Is it just Kazan left?
Oh, just me?
I think so.
My story? Oh, okay. So how I figured out about Evermore. I remember seeing it on Facebook and that'd be fun. At the time, we just barely moved down to Utah, and I brought it up to my wife, and it was Halloween time, and we were like, it's just a normal haunt, don't worry about it. And okay, whatever, because Halloween, that's the way it looked. And then come December, I saw, they're still open. I'm like, honey, we should go check this place out. And it's still open. She's like, it's Christmas. We're busy. We don't have, we have 6 kids. We can't really do that right now. I'm like, yeah, I understand. Then Mythos came and I saw that and I'm like, she's probably going to shoot me down again. But then our oldest 2 started talking about it. And they're like, and their nerd friends up here in San Pete were like, they went and then they convinced my sons to go on a Monday. When they got home, they could not shut up about Evermore. They had it was when they were doing the adventure cards, the quest cards. It was like, and I looked at them like, honey, we have to go now. And she's like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And we went that Saturday. It was the second night of the dwarf games. I remember that. And I remember walking in through the portal, the deer in the headlight look like, what the heck did we just get ourselves into? And Cleo, the great actress she is, saw that and is like, oh, you're new. Here, take these flyers. We're going to be doing a vote later on. You got to vote for the townsfolk, because we're behind of the pirates, and like, okay, so what else do we do here? And she's like, go up this way and go talk to anybody. And we went there, met the dragon trainers. That was amazing. The first day there, we met Giggles, the joke telling ogre. Our son said that we had to meet him. We went into the burrows, did a whole bunch of coloring, went up and saw Silidros and Gudrun. They were doing the history. They were doing the mayoral election at the same time too, just way over our heads. And we just like, just doing a cursory surface level, like, oh, this will be fun. And then when we walked out of the park that night, my wife turned to me and said, I'm sorry, we should have came when you first said we needed to come. So that's how we got involved. And then we came a couple of times in Mythos, came a few more times in Lore, came for opening a Lore, then work got in the way for me. She wasn't comfortable enough coming by herself yet. So we came at the end of Lore. We missed Halloween night because we had other family obligations at home. And then after that, we're like, we're not missing Halloween at Evermore ever again. And yeah. Then we went to the Pirate Soiree. That was a lot of fun. The Cannoneer, played by Cade, was so hilarious. And have we mentioned the food?
Oh.
Yeah, the food was amazing at there. And then for Aurora 2019, I did not miss a day from opening day to mid-February. My wife didn't miss a day the whole entire Aurora. And during that time, we got to know Kyra. We got invited to certain events that nobody else got invited. I was the only world walker that got put into the Wolves of Winter without being there because my wife championed for me.
Oh, wow.
If you watch the video, when Renalen gets named, she says Renalen and Kazan. I know other world walkers got asked to go through the Roaring Portal, but I know that 6 of us did. I know Rachel did. Katie did. Me and my wife, Katie, Jeremy, Renee, and Rachel. The only 6 that we had the opportunity to become, we took the opportunity to become part of Evermore canon. With that, I couldn't be Kazan anymore, and Marilyn couldn't be Renalen anymore, so we had to make some new characters, which I've had some fun with it, and you guys have seen that. For Pyra, I was a dragon slayer. Kars, who was in service to Kazan. If you want to know more about Kazan and Kars's and everybody's relationship, find us in Park. We'll tell you some more about our backstory. And then for Lore, because I knew I was going to have to get somewhat serious for Aurora when Kazan comes back, I decided to dress in drag. Yeah, you can't. Every character I've played, you can't miss me. Kazan has horns. Kars has a giant sword and a 6'4" drag queen. I am so grateful for the Everguard. I'm so grateful for Pitt and his expertise with editing. He does an amazing job.
Thank you.
This community that we have, everybody that's been able to come together and do this, it has been amazing. I said this at the very beginning. I've made more friends in this past year than I have in 10, 15 years. And it's all because of Evermore. That's what Evermore means to me, is community. No matter who you are, we are accepting. That's what it really means to me, is that it's a unique theater experience. It's not a typical play with the actors on stage and you're just looking on. You can actually be part of the production and actually change the outcome of the production as a patron. Thanks for joining us on this special podcast of the Evercast, of what Evermore really means to us and why we joined the Everguard and Evermore. If you see us in Park, please introduce yourselves. We are more than happy to make new friends, help you out any way we can. And who knows, maybe you can help us out. If you have any questions, concerns, ideas for future podcasts, you can always email us at evercastweekly@gmail.com. Until the next time that we're on the air, thank you so much for watching, all 6 of you. I appreciate everything you guys do.
Today we will be talking about.
Did I use the word moniker correctly?
Can we just leave it at what she said?
Jump right in.
I
Second.
was about to offer you a pen and then realized that doesn't work.
Nope, you can't. Tell him go away. Go away. Go away.
So-and-so's in jail. So-and-so is.
Rachel, I think your internet connection's having problems. Yeah, I was hearing whispering. Who's whispering?
That would be.
We are not an officially affiliated. Sorry.
Blah, 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 blah.
The dragon.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yes.
Because the darkness was after the dragons, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
You didn't record the earlier stuff. Woohoo! We're good.
Wait, what earlier stuff?
I'm not telling you because you'll use it against me. Just
No, I've been recording since the beginning.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I thought you just started recording.
Nope.
Thanksgiving episode.
I don't know if that's gonna work.
That was pretty golden.
Again, maybe.
Your connection is a little choppy. It's okay.
Somebody else.
I'm sure it was good.
Do that.